What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is just completely dedicated to Battlefield 2042's brilliant, and I emphasize brilliant, main maps to see which ones are better in my opinion and which ones are not. You guys have been wanting this, and today I'm here to deliver. But before we start, these are my favorite maps and also the ones I don't like that much, and I have my own reasons for choosing them as well. But I'm sure this is totally personal preference and will differ from one person to another, so go ahead and comment down below your favorite maps and also the maps that you just hate to play on. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. That's going to help the channel a lot, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. This is the place for every single Battlefield fan out there, and with all that said, it's time to start the video. So I'll just go over the maps one by one and then determine the top 3 best maps and of course the top 3 worst maps. Starting off with the latest map, Redacted. There was a lot going on around this map before its release. So many people thought it might be a Redux version of Operation Locker due to the similarities between their layouts. DICE themselves caused a lot of buzz in the community, sharing coordinates and doing all those kind of stuff just to keep the community guessing. But after all, this map was the first infantry-only map in Battlefield 2042 and still is to this date. I don't think it's going to remain the one and only infantry map. I believe the Chile map is going to be another infantry-only map, but I digress. DICE says they heavily inspired from Operation Metro and Locker maps for creating Redacted. However, despite Redacted being a decent map, it can never come close to those maps. They're just legendary, and Redacted just lacks the soul for becoming another Locker or another Metro. So yeah, I enjoy playing on it every now and then, but I guess BF2042 has got better maps. Moving on to Spearhead, first of all, this map visually looks absolutely stunning. It just has a cold yet very interesting map design that kind of sinks me in personally, and it's one of those maps that I wouldn't mind playing on twice in a row. I believe the layout is not perfect. Objectives E1 and E2 and also A1 and A2 are pretty much out of the main combat zone almost all the time. Some people with Pond Hawks somehow get themselves there and start capturing them all the time, but generally speaking, those objectives are not well designed in my opinion. But apart from them, C1 and C2 or even D1 are nicely done, and they host almost all of the gunfights of a match. So yeah, Spearhead is definitely one of my favorites. Alright, the next map on this list is Reclaimed, which was the only map that came with Season 5. Because Redacted and Reclaimed were released respectively, and they both provide mostly close combat gunfights, I wouldn't mind having a small little comparison between them. So first of all, I would say that Reclaimed is a more mature and a more thought about map. I mean, the map layout says it all. It's bigger than Redacted, and all of the objectives in this map are fairly accessible. And what I mean by that is they can pretty much be the hotspot for combat depending on how the two teams are managing the game. Yes, that's also the case for Redacted, but Redacted is an infantry-only map and is also pretty much smaller, so that's not a virtue by any means. And I believe Reclaimed just feels a bit more active and alive, I would say, compared to Redacted. I don't know, maybe Redacted is supposed to give those kind of vibes, you know, and some people enjoy it, but Reclaimed is a superior map if you ask me. Next map is Kaleidoscope. This particular map is interesting because there's no middle line for it when it comes to what players think about it. Some people just utterly hate it and some people love it. I, however, am somewhere in between. I always play Recon in this map, no exceptions, and I have to say I enjoy it. I've only tried playing with an assault rifle once, and that was just horrific. Terrible experience. Ever since, I just pick up my sniper rifle and have some fun. Kaleidoscope is literally the only map that I use sniper rifles on, and every time, it's just enjoyable. And apart from B-site, the other objectives are rather easy to get to. The 128 player effect hasn't been able to destroy this map as much as it has destroyed some others. But imagine if one of these skyscrapers could have been destroyed by tanks shooting in the main supporting pillars. I mean, that would be just awesome. But yeah, generally speaking, playing with a sniper rifle always feels good for me on Kaleidoscope. Moving on to Flashpoint, and this map feels awkward to be honest. The combat is almost at objectives D, E, C, and maybe, just maybe, B site. The rest are just there to be. Not only the layout is trash, but the environment just promotes snipers to camp somewhere in the hills and just snipe you all the time. Of course, there's always someone to go out there and crash the party, but it just isn't fun to be dealing with all those snipers and DMR players at the same time. The map looks super bright as well due to the terrain, and whoever's camping on the hills is pretty much invisible. I can't say I hate it, but I definitely prefer to play somewhere else if the choice is mine. Discarded is the next map on the list, and it's one of my favorite maps. When I first started playing BF2042, I wasn't enjoying this map as much as I am right now. The reason for that is simply the complexity of the environment. There's a lot of verticality, so many different angles from different heights that you should always be aware of, a combination of both close quarter and medium range combat, all of which makes this map quite hard on newcomers, I would say, but once you've played a few rounds, things will start to work out, trust me. The next map is Breakaway. Once again, this map also has some designing issues, like most of the maps in this game, and all of that is because DICE wanted to extend and enlarge the maps as much as possible so they can handle 128 players at the same time. Objectives E and D are well and truly out of the main combat zone. In fact, they have a combat zone for themselves, which is completely isolated from the other half of the map. Most of the conflicts take place at A, B, and C, but even with this issue, this map still feels good to play. It kind of reminds me of Operation Whiteout from BF4. I'm pretty sure some of you guys can relate. And it also has some cool evolutions with the gigantic oil tanks on Objective C causing huge explosions and killing everyone around. Nowhere near BF4 in that regard, but it's better than nothing. Generally speaking, it's not the perfect map, but I still enjoy playing on it. Moving on to Stranded, it also provides a decent amount of verticality in almost all of the sites. When I had first started playing BF2042, I always had problem telling the difference between Discarded and Stranded. Even though they are completely different maps, the environment kind of felt the same. Stranded suffers from pretty much useless objectives, just like most of the maps. Most of the infantry combat takes place in C1 and C2, and the other objectives are literally useless. C1 and C2 provide some good aggressive close quarter combat as well, so my go-to is always an SMG on this map. The next map is Exposure. Generally speaking, this map has its pros and cons. B1 and B2 provide some hardcore and chaotic combat experience. In fact, those objectives sometimes remind me of good old Locker and Metro combats because there's just smoke everywhere, C4s and grenades being thrown, and it feels really good when the two teams are fighting for taking control of B sector. However, the other sides, especially D and A, are far away and actually give you a hard time making your way back to B, and that's my problem with this map. I believe the layout could have been more practical, but I still enjoy playing this map regardless. Next map is Hourglass. A lot of people hated the original map, including myself. I have a friend who literally couldn't play on the map because he hated it so much, but even though the reworked version is still not a perfect map, it's way better than the original one, and I have to say, I enjoy playing it. Objectives B, C, and D are now kind of linear and easy to access from one to another. Objective A is still way better than G, E, and F because at least you don't need a private jet to get there, and it's reasonably close to B. However, objectives G, E, and F are still trash and completely out of the combat zone. With all that said, the reworked version is definitely a better map than the original one, and at least some people can enjoy Hourglass these days. The next map is Manifest, and I just can't hate a map more than this one. I don't know how, but it's the favorite map of so many people. It's got good verticality, I have to admit, but you feel like you should always be running from C to A and vice versa. It's a constant marathon between the two sectors until the end of the match, and you really spend a lot of time doing just that. Not to mention Objective B, which is on another planet, and you can all just ignore it throughout the entire match. McKay players hunting for prey on the containers are another common problem I have playing on this map, and just there's a lot that you should look out for while you really can't do anything noteworthy against them. Not gonna lie, Manifest is the only map that I would never want to play on. Literally. Moving on to Orbital, the objectives can be hard to get to sometimes, especially C2 and A1, which are at the far ends of the map, but apart from those two, I guess the map design is on point. The tunnel connecting B1 and B2 is really helpful sometimes, and also the launch of that infamous spaceship with tornadoes and all that gives this map a quite cinematic look every now and then. Honestly, I like it. Wasn't my favorite map back in my first days of Battlefield 2042, but now I guess I can enjoy playing it. And last but not least is Renewal. This is hands down the best map in my opinion. For some reason, I always enjoy playing on Renewal. Maybe it's that large barrier dividing the map into two parts. One part is literally a desert and the other is used for agricultural means. D sector is just useless in this map. I hate to say it, but that's a fact. Apart from that, the other objectives are well connected. The fight between C1 and C2 is always nice. The map also provides decent verticality in almost all of the objectives, and I believe it's a better map than most of the existing ones. So now my top 3 best maps will be Reclaimed, Discarded, and Renewal. As I've said before, I just really enjoy playing there, and that's still the case before the 2 new maps of Season 7. The top 3 worst maps, in my opinion, are Stranded, Flashpoint, and Manifest. I just don't find them nice to play on, but Stranded and Flashpoint are at least bearable. Manifest is truly trash, and I just can't stand it. Yeah, sometimes I play it, but I would never ever choose it if I ever had a choice. So that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to let me know your best and worst maps so I can get to know my audience better. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay cool.